The alien queen commanded her army to find him. She wanted his tool, but he was already standing behind her. The crystalline spires of the Zenari palace trembled as the cosmic storm battered the atmospheric shields. Queen Valora Nixstar gripped her obsidian throne, her lavender skin luminous against the darkening control room. Emergency lights cast purple shadows across her face as technicians scrambled around failing consoles. Status report. Commander Zeth, she demanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. Commander Zeth Ravalian bowed deeply, his four-pointed crest lowered in deference. The storm has damaged the primary conduits to the ancient core, Your Majesty. The palace's power systems are failing, and the planetary shield grid is at 23% capacity. Valora rose from her throne, her ornate silver circlet catching the emergency lights. And the core itself? Unstable, Your Majesty. Chief Engineer Lyrax believes it may be beyond our ability to repair. The Queen's violet eyes narrowed. Nothing is beyond repair, Commander, nothing. She swept across the control room, her ceremonial cape billowing behind her. The ancient energy core that powered not just the palace but the entire planetary defense system lay exposed in the chamber below. Its usual brilliant azure glow had dimmed to a sickly flicker. Engineers swarmed around it like insects, their tools making little impact on the ancient technology. Chief Engineer, Valora called down. Explain your failure. Lyrax looked up, his face streaked with luminescent fluid from the core. The technology predates our empire, Your Majesty. We understand its function, but not its heart. The storm has damaged components we cannot replicate. Valora pressed her fingertips to the observation glass. Their civilization had built upon the foundations of an older, greater species. They had mastered the use of the core but never truly understood its creation. Now that ignorance threatened everything. There was someone, she whispered more to herself than to Lyrax. A human, years ago, Your Majesty? Commander Zeth questioned. Memories flashed through Valora's mind. A man with weathered hands and knowing eyes. A human named Arik Thalassos who had arrived with a merchant vessel and shown an uncanny understanding of the ancient technologies that powered her world, before she had sent him away. There is a human mechanic, she declared, turning to face her court.
Arik Thalassos.
He possesses knowledge and a unique tool capable of interfacing with the core's original systems. Find him. A human, Your Majesty. Zeth's expression betrayed his doubt. Surely our own engineers have failed. Valora finished coldly. The human showed insights into the core's systems that none of our specialists possessed. He carries an adaptive tool of his own design. I want it. I want him found immediately. But Your Majesty, you banished this human from the Empire. We don't know where. I know what I did, Commander. She snapped, her eyes flashing dangerously. Deploy the entire search fleet if necessary. I want his tool and his expertise brought to me before this core fails completely. Commander Zeth saluted, his palm flat against his chest. As you command, my queen. As her court rushed to execute her orders, Valora returned her gaze to the failing core. Pride had made her send Arik away years ago. His casual manner and refusal to observe proper protocol had been an insult to her court. Yet now that same human might be their only salvation. The fleet will be deployed within the hour, Your Majesty, Zeth reported. See that they are. I want every quadrant searched. He cannot have gone far beyond the outer systems. A soft voice spoke from the doorway behind her. Actually, I never left the Zenari sector, Your Highness. Valora froze, then slowly turned. Leaning against the doorframe was a human figure, dressed in stained work clothes, a complex multi-tool hanging from his belt. His face was older than she remembered, with new lines around his eyes. But his slight smile remained the same. Arik Thalassos stood before her, exactly when she needed him most and exactly where she never expected him to be. The control room fell silent. Valora's guards instantly moved to flank the human, plasma spears humming to life. Stand down, Valora commanded, her voice barely above a whisper. Her violet eyes never left Arik's face as she glided toward him. How did you get past our security protocols? Arik's smile widened slightly, the same way I did last time. Your systems still have the same back doors they had 5 years ago. He gestured toward the failing core below. Though you have bigger problems than security right now. Commander Zeth moved protectively toward his queen. Your Majesty, shall I have this human detained for trespassing? That would be counterproductive, considering you were about to send an entire fleet to find me. Arik interjected, pulling a complex device from his belt. Its crystalline components pulsed with energy that seemed to respond to the core's fluctuations. Valora raised her hand, silencing Zeth's protest. "Leave us," she ordered. The court hesitated until her gaze hardened. "Now." As the room emptied, leaving only the queen and the human mechanic, tension filled the air between them. Valora's regal posture remained unchanged, but Arik could see the subtle tremble in her clenched fists. "You heard my command to find you," she stated. "I was already here," he replied, moving past her to the observation window. "I felt the core destabilizing 3 systems away. The resonance patterns are distinctive." "So you came uninvited to my palace," Valora said, following him. Again. Arik's eyes met hers, no longer carrying the carefree sparkle she remembered. "I came to prevent the collapse of an entire civilization." "Your civilization? After I banished you?" "Despite that, yes." His attention returned to the failing core. "The cosmic storm damaged the harmonic stabilizers. Your engineers are trying to repair the symptoms, not the cause." Valora moved beside him, close enough that he could smell the faint aroma of stellar blossoms that always seemed to surround her. "Can you fix it?" "Yes," Arik said simply. "But I'll need unrestricted access, and your engineers will need to follow my instructions without question." Pride flickered across Valora's face. "You forget your place, human." "No," Arik countered, his voice soft but firm. "You forget what's at stake. Your empire, your people, your world." He turned to face her fully. 5 years ago, you chose your pride over reason. Will you make the same mistake now?" The memory of their last encounter flashed between them. Arik laughing in the throne room, refusing to kneel, speaking to her as an equal rather than a subject. The court had been scandalized. Her authority had been challenged. She had reacted as any queen would. Now, as her world literally crumbled around her, Valora made a different choice. "What do you need?" she asked. Arik's expression softened. "Access to the core chamber, and you at my side." "Me?" "The core responds to Zanari biorhythms. I can fix the mechanics, but you'll need to stabilize the energy flow." He extended his hand. "We need to work together, Valora." Her name, not her title, on his lips sent an unexpected shiver through her. She didn't take his hand, but she nodded once. "Very well, Arik Thalassos. Let us save my world." Shadows of the past. The ancient core chamber hummed with unstable energy as Arik worked beneath the primary conduit. Valora stood nearby, her palms pressed against twin receptor panels that glowed in response to her touch. For 3 days they had worked in shifts, speaking only when necessary, rebuilding what the storm had destroyed. "Recalibrate the harmonic frequency," Arik called out, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. "Try pattern 739. Valora adjusted the controls, her fingers dancing across symbols that predated her civilization. The core's glow strengthened momentarily, then faltered again. "It's not holding," she reported, frustration edging into her voice. Fatigue had worn away her regal facade, leaving just a woman fighting to save her people. Arik emerged from beneath the conduit, his face smudged with luminescent fluid. "We're missing something." He consulted the readouts on his multi-tool. "The core wants to stabilize, but something's actively preventing it." Their eyes met across the chamber. "Sabotage?" Valora asked. "Possibly. Or another damaged component we haven't found yet." Silence fell between them as Arik studied his readings. Valora found herself watching his hands, capable, confident hands that moved with precision and purpose. She remembered those same hands gesturing animatedly as he had explained the core's function to her years ago. His enthusiasm infectious, his disregard for protocol both infuriating and refreshing. "Why did you come back?" she finally asked, the question that had lingered since his appearance. Arik didn't look up. "You know why. I banished you. Threatened execution if you ever returned. You did. Yet here you are." He finally raised his eyes to meet hers. "Some things are more important than pride. Or safety, such as? Such as an entire civilization depending on this core." He hesitated, then added softly, "Such as a promise I made." Valora's brow furrowed. "What promise?" Before he could answer, the chamber door hissed open. Commander Zeth entered, bowing deeply. "Your Majesty, the situation in the southern provinces has worsened. Power failures have affected the agricultural domes." As Valora turned to address her commander, Arik's multi-tool emitted a warning tone. He glanced at its display, then shouted, "Get down!" He lunged toward Valora as an explosion rocked the chamber. The Queen felt his arms wrap around her as they tumbled to the floor, his body shielding hers as debris rained down around them. When the dust settled, she found herself pressed against him, his heartbeat rapid against her chest. "Are you injured?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. "No," she managed, acutely aware of their proximity. "Commander Zeth?" A groan from across the chamber confirmed the commander had survived. Arik helped Vailora to her feet, his hand lingering on her arm longer than necessary. "That was deliberate," he said grimly, examining the damaged conduit. "Someone doesn't want this core repaired." Valora's eyes hardened. "Find out who," she ordered Zeth, who was struggling to his feet. "Check the surveillance systems and question the engineering team." As Zeth limped from the chamber, Valora turned back to Arik. "You knew it was coming." "How?" He held up his multi-tool, modified to detect energy fluctuations. "I sensed the build-up seconds before detonation." His eyes met hers. "Someone on your staff doesn't want you to succeed, Valora, or doesn't want you to help me," she countered. A hint of his old smile returned. "Still have enemies in your court, do I? You mocked our traditions, refused to observe proper protocols. I treated you like a person instead of a deity." His voice softened. "That was my real crime, wasn't it?" Vailora turned away, unwilling to acknowledge the truth in his words. "We need to focus on the core." "The promise I made," Arik said suddenly, returning to their interrupted conversation, "was to your father." She froze. "My father has been dead for 12 years. I met him 13 years ago before you ascended to the throne. I was part of a diplomatic mission, my first contact with your people." Arik moved to a damaged panel and began working as he spoke. "He showed me the core, told me it was failing even then, asked me to help if I could. You never told me this. You never gave me the chance." His hands continued working, even as his voice remained gentle. "When I returned 5 years ago and recognized the signs, I tried to warn you. But I was just a human mechanic who didn't know his place." Memories flooded back, Arik approaching her throne without permission, speaking urgently about the core's degradation, her dismissal of his concerns as a ploy to gain access to Zinari technology, her order of banishment. "Why not tell me about my father's request?" she asked. "Would you have believed me?" He glanced up. "Or would it have seemed like another human trick?" Vailora had no answer. Instead, she moved to his side, picking up a calibration tool. "Show me what to do." Their hands brushed as he guided her through the repair sequence. A spark of electricity jumped between them. Whether from the core or something else, neither acknowledged it. But both felt it. 3 weeks of grueling work had brought them closer to salvation and to each other. The core now glowed with a steady azure light, though intermittent fluctuations still threatened its stability. Valora and Arik had fallen into a rhythm, working side by side. Their earlier hostility transformed into grudging respect, then partnership, and finally something neither dared name. "The primary conduit is realigned," Valora reported, her fingers dancing across the ancient control panel. Her usual ornate attire had been replaced by practical work clothes, her silver circlet the only reminder of her royal status. "Power flow has increased to 63%. Arik nodded, adjusting his multi-tool settings. "Better, but still not enough for planetary stabilization. We need to bypass the damaged harmonic resonator." They had discovered the saboteur a week earlier, a royal advisor with connections to a rival star system that hoped to absorb the weakened Zinari Empire. The sabotage had been more extensive than initially thought, with dormant disruptors planted throughout the core system. As Arik worked beneath the main platform, Valora found herself watching him. The human moved with a grace that belied his species' reputation for clumsiness. His hands, strong, capable hands, manipulated delicate components with precision. When he smiled, lines appeared around his eyes that hadn't been there 5 years ago. "You're staring again, Your Majesty," he said without looking up. Valora felt warmth rise in her purple cheeks. "I'm observing your technique." "Of course you are." His smile widened as he emerged from the access panel. "Hand me the phase inverter." As she passed him the tool, their fingers brushed. The now familiar electricity sparked between them, but this time, neither pulled away immediately. Valora's violet eyes met his, a question in their depths. Before either could speak, the core pulsed violently. Warning signals blared throughout the chamber as the stabilization field began to collapse. "What's happening?" Valora demanded, rushing to the control panel. Arik's face went grim as he checked his readings. One of the saboteur's devices activated. It's causing a cascading failure in the core's containment field. His eyes met hers. We have minutes before total collapse. Can we stop it? Not from here. He pointed to a narrow maintenance tunnel beneath the core. The disruptor must be physically removed, but the radiation levels... Understanding dawned on Valora's face. It would be fatal, yes. The chamber trembled as the core's instability increased. Secondary systems began failing around them as the palace's power fluctuated. I'll go, Arik said simply, already gathering tools. Valora grabbed his arm. No, this is my world, my responsibility. Your people need their queen, and I need... She stopped herself, the words catching in her throat. The core pulsed again, more violently. A support beam crashed down nearby, blocking the chamber's exit. They were trapped, with only the maintenance tunnel as an escape route, a tunnel that led directly to the deadly disruptor. Arik took her hands in his. There's another way, risky but possible. He held up his multi-tool. I can modify this to create a temporary stasis field around the disruptor. We can retrieve it together and escape through the tunnel before the field collapses. The radiation will affect us both, but a shared exposure might be survivable. His eyes held hers. It would require perfect synchronization between us. Your biorhythm, my technology. No words were needed to communicate their decision. As the core continued to destabilize around them, they moved to the tunnel entrance together. If this doesn't work, Valora said softly, I need you to know that I regret sending you away, not because of the core, but because... Arik silenced her with a finger to her lips. Tell me after we save your world. They descended into the narrow tunnel, their bodies pressed close in the confined space. The radiation levels rose as they approached the disruptor, a malevolent device pulsing with disruptive energy at the heart of the core system. Arik activated his modified tool, creating a shimmering field around the device. On my mark, place your hands on these nodes. Your biorhythm will stabilize the field while I extract the disruptor. Valora nodded, positioning her hands. Their faces were inches apart in the cramped space, their breath mingling. Now, Arik whispered. As their hands connected through the stasis field, energy surged between them. Valora gasped as she felt her consciousness briefly merge with his, memories, feelings, desires flowing between them in an instant of perfect union. She saw herself through his eyes, felt his admiration, his frustration, his longing, and she knew he could feel the same from her. The disruptor came free in Arik's hands, safely contained in the stasis field. But the core, suddenly released from its influence, pulsed violently. The tunnel began to collapse around them. Run, Arik shouted, pushing Valora ahead of him. They scrambled through the collapsing passage, emerging into the main chamber just as the tunnel sealed behind them. The core's glow had stabilized, but alarms still blared throughout the facility. Breathing heavily, they collapsed against the central console. The disruptor, still contained in the failing stasis field, sat between them. It's holding, Valora whispered, but we're still irradiated. Arik nodded grimly. The medical bay is too far. We'd never make it. They looked at each other, understanding the reality of their situation. In saving the core, they had sacrificed themselves. Valora moved closer, her hand finding his. If these are our last moments, she said softly, I don't want to spend them with regrets. Her fingers traced his jawline, and Arik's breath caught. 5 years of separation, 3 weeks of rebuilding trust, and now this moment of truth between them. No more regrets, he agreed, pulling her close as the world seemed to fade around them. Restoration Valora awakened in the royal medical chamber, the soft hum of regeneration fields surrounding her. For a moment, disorientation clouded her mind. Hadn't she been in the core chamber with Arik? The memory of their closeness, of impending doom, rushed back. Arik, she whispered, trying to sit up. Careful, Your Majesty, came Chief Physician Lyra's voice. The radiation exposure was significant. Where is he? Valora demanded, her voice stronger. Lyra hesitated. The human is in a separate chamber. His physiology required different treatment protocols. Is he alive? Yes, but Valora was already disconnecting herself from the monitoring equipment. Take me to him. Now. Despite Lyra's protests, Valora made her way through the medical facility, her body still weak but driven by determination. They found Arik in a specialized chamber, surrounded by unfamiliar equipment. His eyes were closed, his breathing shallow. "We've done everything possible," Lyra explained. "But human biology is fragile compared to Xenari physiology." The radiation affected him more severely. Valora approached his bedside, memories of their final moments in the tunnel washing over her, the connection they had shared when their consciousness briefly merged, the feelings she had glimpsed within him. "Leave us," she commanded. When the medical staff had departed, she took Arik's hand in hers. "You saved my world," she whispered, again, and this time at what cost? To her surprise, his fingers tightened around hers. His eyes opened slowly, focusing on her face. "Worth it," he murmured, his voice rough. "How's the core?" A relieved laugh escaped her. "You nearly die, and your first concern is the core?" "My second concern," he corrected, his gaze never leaving hers. "My first is standing beside me." Heat bloomed in Valora's cheeks. "Commander Zeth reports the core has stabilized completely. The planetary shields are at full capacity for the first time in decades." "Good." Arik smiled weakly. "Does this mean my banishment is officially lifted?" "It was lifted the moment you saved my life in the chamber," she replied softly. She hesitated, then added, "Though I'm not certain royal consort falls within your career aspirations." His eyes widened at her implication. "That depends on the Queen." "The Queen," Valora said, leaning closer, "has discovered that some traditions are worth breaking, some protocols worth ignoring." Her fingers traced the line of his jaw. "The Queen has also discovered that what she truly wanted wasn't just your tool or your expertise." "What did she want?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "You," she answered simply. "The man who treats her as a woman, not a deity. The man who challenges her, respects her, and sees beyond her crown." 2 weeks later, the royal palace of Xenari glowed with renewed energy. The core's azure light pulsed strongly through the crystal towers, a beacon of stability in the empire once more. In the grand audience chamber, Queen Valora stood before her assembled court, her lavender skin luminous in her ceremonial attire. "The Xenari Empire faces a new era," she announced, "one of innovation and adaptation. The recent crisis has shown us the danger of clinging too rigidly to the past." At her side stood Arik, now fully recovered. He wore formal attire that blended human and Xenari styles, a symbolic fusion that represented the Queen's new vision. "Therefore," Valora continued, "I am establishing the Royal Institute of Technological Integration, to be headed by Arik Thalassos, whose knowledge saved our world." Murmurs rippled through the court, some approving, others uncertain. Change never came easily to the ancient empire. "Furthermore," the Queen added, her voice softening as she turned to face Arik, "I am naming him royal consort, with all rights and privileges thereof." The murmurs grew louder, but Valora's raised hand silenced them. "This decision is not only political but personal. In the darkest hour of our empire's history, when all seemed lost, it was not Xenari tradition that saved us, but innovation, courage, and," she smiled, taking Arik's hand, "love." Later, as the celebration continued below, Valora and Arik stood on the royal balcony overlooking the capital city. The twin moons of Xenari cast their glow over the crystalline structures, now pulsing with stable energy from the restored core. "Your court will adjust," Arik said, his arm around her waist. "Eventually. They'll have to," she replied. "The empire must evolve if it's to survive. Just as its queen has evolved." Valora turned in his embrace, her violet eyes meeting his. The Queen had help remembering what truly mattered. Their lips met as the core's energy pulsed through the city below, a rhythm that matched their heartbeats, synchronized and strong. The empire that had nearly fallen to pride and sabotage now stood revitalized, just as its queen had found new life in the arms of the human she once banished. In the heart of the palace, the ancient core glowed brilliantly, its azure light a testament to what could be accomplished when barriers fell away. Just as the Queen had discovered, some tools were meant for more than just repair. Some were meant to build something entirely new.